now B2B mentors. We took our guest blog and took it into podcast form. So I've been getting used to doing everything through, recording on Zoom, making sure I'm streaming all the right way and everything. So if you see me just look away or whatever, I'm just trying to make sure all the machines are operating appropriately.
Not a problem.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and joining today. It's great to see you in person. And as a quick way to get started, please brag about yourself a little bit. Give us a little 60-second brag about what led you to where you're at in your career today, in your life.
So just been passionate about sales my entire life, been passionate about entrepreneurship. So I've had this business, the Bridge Group, for 22 years, started in 1998. Focused on B2B tech, worked with over 400 clients, also author of the Sales Development Playbook, available on Amazon. I just love it. I love figuring out how people should use phone, web, social media to build pipeline and generate revenue.
It's kind of one of those things that, like, no matter how much you've been doing it, there's never you can never ever totally perfect it 100%.
And you never will, especially with things changing the way, the way they've changed over the last few months. Perfection is not a goal that will be achieved.
I would freak out about doing a podcast in this setting formally, but I agree with you. I feel a little more comfortable now. We're just in a world where the curtain's unveiled for the most part.
Human. We're in a human world now.
Yeah.
We're getting to see each other as humans, no matter what. I did remember to shut my door, though. So my cat usually likes to walk around in front of the camera a few times. Yeah, he's kind of hogs the camera. So
I should have told you, our entire audience are actually cat fanatics. So the ratings would have been through the roof. But
I know, I wish I had a really cute puppy, but no.
Oh, well, puppies work too. Cats, puppies, lizards. I've seen it all. Turtles, in podcast interviews. So, how do you navigate? This is a big conversation about how do you navigate that human component? How do you bring that into sales development now? And what do you think is different moving forward?
So I think what's different is I think we have the ability to go back to being human and talking to each other like humans. Whereas for a while, I think we got on this Gatling gun, bing, 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 activity, messaging, bing, 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 bing. And now I think everyone kind of took a breath, thought about what their story was, thought about how they can add value, and is now figuring out, how do I communicate that in a way that's me to you? Everyone talks about personalization at scale. Right. Personalization doesn't scale, but whatevs. I think, you really have to figure out, I know what your role is. I think I know what your challenges are. I'm pretty sure I know how I can help you. You want to talk to me about it? That's it. No marketing gobbledygook. No leading provider of. No, I helped this company achieve 9 million % growth. Whoever believes that anyway.
Right.
Just human.
Yeah. So bragging about yourself, talking about, your wins, how many years you've been in business. I think I heard you talk about that on another podcast. It's just really breaking it down and just getting conversational, whatever the channel is.
I mean, if you were a buyer, I would never say, hey, Connor, I've been in business 22 years. What do you think about that? You'd be like, I don't care. So I think you just really have to figure out, okay, here's a problem I think I can solve. Do you have it? And I might know something you don't know. Do you want to know what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's something I was interested in breaking down with you, because it's a complex world. It's almost like now in some cases you have to hit even more people to get a deal moving, especially a large deal. And sometimes even have more conversations because there's stuff happening outside of people's hands, buyers' hands, whether their industries, totally going under, or whatever the changing landscape is. And so one thing you've mentioned is really, in reality, you're going to win about 25% of your deals, roughly, give or take.
Yep.
50% you lose to what? No, you said no decision, indecision,
or status quo.
And so is it really like being, totally perfecting and refining sales skills, or is it really about the pipeline?
Well, you can't get to the pipeline unless you have the sales skills, because pipeline is harder. I think pipeline is harder to generate than revenue, right? Top of funnel is like really, really hard nowadays. So I think you have to have the story to tell. You have to be fluent at telling it. You have to have a process that just isn't about you. You know, you don't call up people and bant them. And then I think you have to understand, who am I competing with in this deal? Like, who am I selling to and who am I competing with? Because you said something, Connor, it was quite true. More and more people are involved in the decision-making process. You need to know that up front, and you need to start playing those cards up front. And then my biggest competitor is do nothing. Am I as a seller prepared to compete with do nothing? Most people aren't. Most people get trained up the hoo-ha
Right.
on how to compete with competitors, other
Right.
firms, other solutions, whatever. But no one teaches them, how do you compete with the decision to do nothing?
And explain that, tease that out a little bit further.
Okay. So status quo, and the numbers I quoted aren't COVID numbers. We've always only won roughly 25% of our deals. So you win 25%, you lose 25% to competition, and 50% of the time you lose to no decision. There have been multiple factors that have impacted that, mostly the crappy job we did qualifying. So they were in our pipeline and they probably shouldn't have been anyway, right? But post-COVID, people are holding on to their dollars. They're nervous about what's going to happen next. And they're, cash is king, always has been. And they're a little hesitant to spend, particularly if you're not an aspirin. If you're a vitamin, it's even harder for you. So I think we have to figure out how to now view do nothing as our biggest competitor.
Right. No more nice to haves. It's a gotta have. Like,
you gotta have
the most painful thing that you can solve for somebody.
Yeah, and you need to be able to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be able to articulate not your features and benefits because they're cool, but how that impacts someone's business if they get it implemented well.
Right.
Yeah.
So back to that though, is the more you're able to get more business in, if you're able to rightfully qualify more of the right people. And so is it so much, again, is that more of a skill set, or is that more of like a marketing business development set? Like, is it much more important for a company to focus on their pipeline or everything in their pipeline and like really going all in 100% on what's in their pipeline?
It depends. So unfortunately, there's not one answer to almost any question, but it really depends on what kind of a sale you are. Like if you're a highly transactional, 2-call close, low ASP deal, yeah, you want to put meat in the sausage grinder and out it comes. But if you don't fall into that category, you definitely want to be much more cognizant of the people that you're allowing to the top of funnel, because you're going to be expending resources on them, right? And you don't want to be expending resources on a deal that's never going to happen. So I think we have to be super cognizant of what goes in the top of the funnel. And then when we get to middle of the funnel, that's where people start to get sloppy selling, because top gets a lot of attention, bottom gets a lot of attention, but the middle, the really crafting the value and setting the vision, that's where we need to spend more time. And people are starting to realize that.
Yeah. What do you feel works best in that initial process? Is it more so the perfect message? Obviously not talking about yourself and everything, but is it more so the perfect message, or is it consistency really? The one who, because I've seen stats, the seller that shows up first, shows up the most consistent, generally wins the deal on average. How do you feel about that?
I don't know about shows up first. I would rather not be first, because then I can ask questions about what happened first and start positioning, right? But show up consistently, absolutely. I mean, you have to, and what I mean by consistent is you have to have a plan for how you're going to move the needle, not touch base, check in. We all know that doesn't work. But like, what's my plan? All right, we had a great meeting. I added value. You recognize that I added value. We've agreed on next steps. Let's make sure we execute them. Because I think people just like, oh, yeah, you want to see a demo? Okay, so that was a great demo. All right, yeah. When should I call you back? 2 weeks? Okay, I'll call you back in 2 weeks. That's not a plan. You know what I mean? So I think paying more attention to that, for lack of a better term, nurture strategy in middle of funnel, I think is going to yield a lot more. So super qualify at the top, really think about nurture in the middle, and then have a great closing strategy. Win-win.
Yeah. What would you recommend to be super great at qualifying at the top? Because I feel like even myself, you find yourself bringing deals through the line, and then come to find out when you really reflect it, it was just not doing enough of the right qualifying at the very beginning. So
because we didn't ask closing questions at the beginning. Right? We save all our closing questions for the end, and I don't know why. Like, let's think about this. So you have a great qualification call. You're like, oh my God, this is an opportunity that's really going to work for me and for them. So you recap. I'm big on video recaps. I love using video to recap. And video is also a great way to sell to a buying committee. Hey, Bob, this was a great call. I think we covered a lot of ground. Well, we absolutely did. How about if I send you the recording of this call and you can share it with anyone else you think might find it interesting? Like, get ahead of that curve. Yeah, you know what? I think I will share it. Who are you going to be sharing that with? I mean, blah, blah, blah. You get where I'm going. And now I completely lost my train of thought. Where was I going, Connor?
We were going in delivery and video, and also, yeah, go ahead.
I got it back. Okay. Closing questions at the top of the funnel.
Yes. Or closing questions, and just being better at qualifying as well at the top. Like, that's interesting too, because I haven't heard a lot of experts talk about that, using closing questions at the top. So
easy things.
Right.
Like, hey, when was the last time you bought a solution like ours? Never. Okay, well, that tells me something. Or, you know what? This was great. I think we laid out a plan. Do you agree? Yes, I agree. Let me ask you this question. Scale of 1 to 4, 4 being highly likely. How likely is it, do you think, that we'll be doing business together? It's okay to ask that if you've invested the time, had a great conversation, established empathy and credibility, and deliver value. It's a nice softball question, 1 to 4. They say anything other than a 4, why'd you pick that number? I'm a lover of 1 to 4 questions.
Yeah, it's why 1 to 4? Why not like 1 to 10 or 1 to 5?
Well, because you don't want anyone to pick in the middle. You get people to pick in the middle, and they will.
Yeah.
1 to 10, you have to think about it.
Too big.
Yeah, it's too big. And you don't want to go 1 to 5, because then everybody's going to say 3. You didn't learn anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what are some other good examples of qualifying questions people can use in that beginning meeting?
Well, I think, again, it depends on who your buyer persona is. Are you selling to a recommender? Are you selling to the decision maker? Are you selling to an influencer? I mean, it really depends on who your buyer persona is. That kind of sets the stage for what type of questions you're going to ask them. But you do need to ask them.
Yeah, definitely. So, how do you recommend people get that call? Because I think the shift is so many sellers, you mentioned it was very transactional for a long period of time. Hey, can I get 15 minutes of your time? Hey, can I get 20 minutes of your time? Right. Hey, can I get 30 minutes of your time? What is working now during, and what do you think will work better post-COVID to get those conversations, that initial conversation started?
I think what we're helping our clients do is embedding, I think content is going to make a comeback, a big comeback, good content, right? So if when you're pursuing a potential buyer, you're telling them a story, right? So I'm going to drop a chapter in this voicemail. I'm going to drop a chapter in LinkedIn. I'm going to drop a chapter over video, whatever the case may be. You're telling them a story. That's how your strategy should look like. If you have great content to give them, embedded in your process, you're moving the cycle faster for establishing empathy and credibility. So I think content is going to make a big comeback, not gated content, but content embedded in your outreach strategy. Is
whether it's email, LinkedIn message, Twitter. You seem fairly indifferent on the channel, so much so. Is that accurate?
So I'm a big phone girl because I have a firm belief that no sales starts until someone has a conversation. I think you have to go with the channel that you think your buyer potentially prefers. So you have to do, okay, want to see how formal my research is? Look.
Please.
There you go. I'm asking CROs, what are your top 2 channels that you're most likely to respond to? Not getting any consistency in the answers. So that's why you got to try them all. But, it's not a bad thing. Like, to ask a buyer, hey, this was a great conversation. How do you prefer I communicate with you? Email's the best. Or even say, hey, when I prospected you, you answered the phone. Is that normal? Just informal research, figure out how the buyers like to respond. And I'll be surprised if you get consistency, but you might narrow it down a bit.
Right. I like that. That really goes back to breaking down that wall and that barrier and getting out of the role of like salesperson, buyer, just being like, hey, you're interested in communicating. Yeah. I'm interested in helping you. What, like, do you prefer if I text you or ping you on LinkedIn? Right. Like, what works best for you?
Yep, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Shifting a little bit, I was interested to hear from you, and you've done a phenomenal job at building your personal brand. I mean, you have a lot of competitors out there. I use air quotes competitors because maybe perceived competitors. First off, what led you to the decision of writing your first book? How did you go about that? I'm interested in getting my first book done, and I think hearing from a mentor like you on that and what that's netted for you as well, it'd be really interesting to talk about.
So my brand was way before my book, and I despise the whole personal branding thing. I'm just going to be honest with you. Everything I did organically. I was early on LinkedIn. I share information. I don't get on there every day and freaking pontificate so people think I'm smart. I don't try to game the LinkedIn algorithm. I don't do that stuff because guess what? I have a business to run and my clients are more important to me than my personal brand. Okay, rant over. So I never tried to do that. All I wanted to do was share information with the community, and I picked a couple platforms. I picked LinkedIn and Twitter, although I've kind of moved away from Twitter, though I'm going back. And
I've heard that a lot recently. A lot of people navigated away. I barely got I'm a younger millennial, and I didn't really touch Twitter.
Yeah,
not to cut you off, but what was the reason on that?
I don't know. It was great. I used to love it, and then it became a self-promotion, personal branding thing. I just won an award. I'm doing a webinar. I don't, whatever. It's personal preference. I still follow a lot of people on Twitter, but mostly personal as opposed to professional. But so I kind of had the brand before the book, and I had no overwhelming desire to write a book. But a friend of mine, Jill Conrath, who is a fabulous sales author, she kept saying to me, you own the space, so just go own the space. You own the space, so just go own the space. So I'm like, fine. And I had the year from hell as I wrote the book and ran the business, but it did really well. We thought we were going to sell 500 copies. I'm like, friends, family, clients, 500 copies. I think the last time I looked, and I don't look because that too is a vanity metric, we were like over 30,000.
Wow.
Like, who knew?
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
It was crazy. Oh, by the way, never promoted it. Self-published. I like organic. Like people say to me, I want to write a book. I'm like, take your time and write a good book, because there's no barrier to entry anymore to writing a book. So there's a book a day that comes out in the sales arena. And it's the good books that really rise above the rest.
And you feel yours, even with everything, is still evergreen?
So yes and no. Like I would talk to Matt a lot about it. I'm like, there's a lot in there that I would post COVID, given the opportunity, and I might actually release an updated version. But if you look at the way I wrote the book, it was the 6 pillars of success for building a sales development team. Those pillars have not changed. So if anything, I would be making tweaks, not an overhaul.
Yeah. Interesting. So yeah. So just kind of the serendipity, you had no intention of building a personal brand, but you must have had some reason. I mean, building a business, I'm sure at the very beginning stages, you knew you had to get out there. You just did it a lot earlier than I think
Yeah.
a lot of others caught on to.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I did it for fun.
Yeah. Do you still find it as fun?
So I have to be careful on LinkedIn because it's really noisy and I don't want to be part of the noise.
Right.
So I have to be really, really careful with how often I post and what my content is. So I'm a bit more cautious than I used to be because I don't want to bore people.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't want to once again, I'm not there to pontificate. I'm not there every single day. I don't have that many good ideas. You know what I mean? So yeah, when I have a good idea, I'll go, oh, I'm going to share this. I get on, I share it, and I get off. That's about as smart as I am for a strategy.
Yeah. Do you get your have you gotten business from that, or do you actually get most of your business from account-based, your own very targeted focused outreach?
Yeah, we get a significant amount of inbound traffic from, I do a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of webinars. I do have over 260,000 followers on LinkedIn, which that and about $1.50 will get me a cup of coffee. But I would think, I don't know if between the brand and the book, I don't have to tell people who I am. When I cold call, and I love doing that, it's my favorite thing to do. If I get someone on the line, I go, hey, my name is Trish Bertuzzi. Is my name familiar to you? And about 90% of the time, they say yes.
Really? You asked that in the
call? Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think all sales development reps should just start doing that and then see what kind of answers they get.
Yeah. Hey, give it a go.
Everyone just start doing, hi, my name's Connor Doobie. You've heard of me before, right?
Well, if you do it late enough in your sequence or cadence, maybe they'll say yes. They'll say, yeah, you're the guy that's been trying to reach me. Hey, A/B test it.
You have to give it a shot for sure. Well, actually, let me ask you this on mentorship. How has mentorship played a role in your life over the years?
I've had the most fabulous mentors and I still do.
Yeah. Talk about that. Who do you study? Who are you learning from? I mean,
oh my God. Oh, it's endless. So I talk to people. Well, I love Jill Conrath. I love to talk to her. There's a group called Women Sales Pros run by Lori Richardson. Those women are so freaking smart that I talk and I learn from them all the time. I love talking to the bad boys of business. I love talking to Barrows. I love talking to Keenan. I adore them. I adore people who are doing good work to do good work and not with an ulterior motive. So those people tend to be my mentors. Yeah. Richard Harris, Morgan Ingram, Ashley Early, Casey Jones. There are people less than half my age that I consider my mentors.
Yeah, these are peers of yours. And
yeah, have a conversation with them and I'm like, holy crap, I never thought of that. How fun is that?
How do you all collaborate? Because so many people look at competition and they just totally try to put the blinders on, act like they're not there. And I've seen the most successful and people I've studied like you who are really winning at business. They're collaborating versus trying to compete. I mean, some of these
Yeah.
people could even be considered competitors. So what's kind of been the mentality behind that?
First of all, I'm a sales animal.
Mm,
So you want to compete with me? Go ahead, try.
love it.
Right? Go ahead, try. But I think the collaboration thing, one thing that I realized a really, really long time ago in having this business is that there is more than enough business to go around for everybody. You don't have to negative sell anyone. You don't have to be a nasty little competitor. You don't have to do things that you don't feel good about or say things that you don't feel. There is more than enough business for all of us. So you win some, you lose some, and as long as I win the most, I'm good.
I like that. It's
Yeah.
a good mindset to hold. I think, yeah, too many people don't realize that. We got 8 billion people on the planet, and
Yeah.
they're so focused on a competitor that they're not doing their own stuff. They're not just moving forward.
You got to move forward. Like
Sucks.
Matt always says to me, I'm like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. I ran into so-and-so again. He goes, recency bias. He said, you haven't competed with that person in 2.5 years. It's just recency bias.
Right.
That's another thing I have to be cognizant of, because being super competitive, you get super focused on that, and you have to kind of look at the big picture. Is my business doing well? Is my close rate where I want it to be? Do I have a robust pipeline? Am I selling as effectively as I can? Doing the things I tell people to do, am I actually doing them myself? So yeah.
Are we really a practitioner, or just a pitcher? Yeah.
So here's the thing. This is what kills me, is that 2 hours a day, 11 to 12 and 2 to 3, I block off for outbound selling, or I try to, and I might get one of those, because if I don't keep my hand in the game, how am I going to know how to advise people?
Right.
You know what I mean? It is my favorite time of day. I have a stand-up desk over there. I do it at my stand-up desk. I have a smile on my face when I'm doing outbound.
And just calling on people.
Calling, email, video. Yep. It's all good.
Yeah.
Testing stuff, A/B testing stuff.
What's for you personally? What seems to be getting the most traction on the channel?
I'm still doing phone the most. I'm having the most conversations via phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cell phone, getting cell phones, or even still office, calling into offices, you're still getting.
Yeah, I tend to only do the direct dial thing if I either have a mobile or a direct dial. I haven't really done the outbound to an office because nobody's home. Yeah.
Or everybody's home.
Well, yeah.
No one's at the other home.
Yeah, no one's at the other home.
Yeah. I'm curious for all the younger entrepreneurs, business development leaders, marketing leaders, sales leaders. What have you, going back 20 years, what would you maybe do differently in your career practices and habits that you may have changed in hindsight now?
I am such a shallow person. I am not introspective at all. So this is a hard question for me. I don't know. You know what? There are people in this world who focus on their past, like people who their high school or college lives were the pinnacle of their lives. There are people who focus on the present, what's going on today. And there are people always worrying about the future. Where am I going next? What am I doing? I am such a present person. I'm like focused on today. What are my goals today? Am I happy today? Am I healthy today? Did I have great conversations today? So I'm sorry. I guess I'm shallow.
No, I think it's a great answer. Is there any regular practices you do to keep that presence? A lot of people are into meditation or exercise or journaling. Like, do you do anything along those lines?
So I think it's more, I do a check-in, and it's not like I do it at any specific point in time, but I'll kick back and I'll go, do I feel joy right now? Like having joy in your life, I think it should be a goal for everyone. So every once in a while, I'll just tune in with myself and say, how am I feeling? Do I feel joy? Am I happy? Am I looking forward to what's next? That's it. If the answer is no, I'm like, okay, what's going on? What do I need to fix? Just a simple thing. It's not a lot to ask out of life to feel joy.
I think that's true. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So anything else that right now super top of mind for you that would be helpful, actionable, good takeaways for, marketers, business development leaders that you would recommend?
I'm going to make a request of your audience. How's that?
Please.
So LinkedIn is getting noisy, and it's getting noisy with people putting every thought that's in their head into a post with a lot of white spaces in between it and a heavy sprinkling of emojis. And it really isn't adding value to the audience. But they're like, ooh, I haven't posted today, so let me just do this. I think if everyone backed up the bus just a notch and really said, is this valuable? Who am I doing this for? Me or the audience? And if the answer is not the audience, don't do it. Because we're ruining the platform. And I'm not saying I'm not part of the problem. I'm just saying. Sorry.
Yeah, I think there's a fine balance. It's hard to navigate too, because people want that food, almost like that, like junk food in a way. And actually, you mentioned Keenan. He's a mentor of mine, good friend. He lives in Colorado, out there with me.
Not this summer.
Say that again.
I said not this summer. He doesn't.
Not this summer. No, he's out. But sometimes he could put stuff out that's very, I guess, it's not always like sales or marketing focused. So it's always a fine line. You don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work, but I agree with you. And do you think people should just post less, or just really just be much more thoughtful in the way that they're doing it?
Sorry, I'm choking.
And do I need to send help out there to with some oxygen for Trish?
Sorry, it's just
Drink break.
wine in here.
Are you still on coffee, or are you moving on to
water? I'm
water?
a water girl. Yeah, so I think once again, who am I to tell you post more, post less, whatever? Just do the litmus test. Am I doing it for me, or am I doing it for my audience?
Yeah. With all the, you mentored over 4 or 5 tech companies over the years.
Yeah.
Worked with.
It's not, I have a team of people, so it's not me.
Right.
God forbid.
Right.
To work with me.
You and your group, what have you consistently seen has made the difference between those that are successful long-term with their marketing, with their sales development practices, and unsuccessful?
The people who understand that variables matter are the people that win. Like the people that say, oh, I was at Salesforce. Now I'm going to this company, which is nothing like Salesforce, but I'm going to implement the exact same strategy I did at Salesforce. And then it implodes. So I think people who go to a new company, and I'm talking about management teams, and say, what are the variables here? Where do I want my revenue to come from? All right, now let me put together a strategy based on that set of variables. Those are the winners.
Great. Well, yeah. Trish, thank you for mentoring us, being our B2B mentor for the day. And how can people find you, follow you, get into contact with you, all the good stuff?
LinkedIn. Feel free to tell me what you like and what you don't like when I share. That's the best way.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Follow you on LinkedIn. Buy the book. Find the book on Amazon.
Just Amazon.
All the major platforms out there.
Amazon.
Beautiful. Amazon. All right. Well, those of you listening, thank you as always. Appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and we will see you.